scenery today. If you haven't been outside, I encourage you to get outside because it's absolutely beautiful. And hope we can continue this before it gets too hot. What do you say?
I like it.
I like it too.
We'll turn the fans up and stay out here.
Yeah, I hope our viewers are enjoying it. But I did want to come together this week and ask you sort of a deeper question than I normally ask. Maybe. I feel like I get a little deep sometimes, and I don't mean to. But, my question for you is, have you ever been angry with God? And, if so, how did you handle it?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that we can look to as far as, is it okay, one, to be angry with God? Two, is it normal to be angry with God? I think, one, we can look to Ecclesiastes. We can see that the one with wisdom, Solomon himself, he was angry with God at times. We see that David was angry with God.
Yep.
They voiced that, and David even wrote songs about it. But he also reminded himself basically in the same songs, that although I'm angry, I know God's going to come through. And that's the thing. Even when we're angry with God and we're hurt, we can be reminded that God's going to come through. We look back on things sometimes and we say, why did God allow these things to happen to me?
Right.
A lot of times we'll get upset in the middle of things as well, and we'll say, God, why are you allowing this to happen? If you love me, you would not.
Yeah.
And you fill in the blank. But the reality is, God teaches us, He grows us, He matures us through trials, and sometimes we get angry with God for growing us, and we don't even realize that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I do get angry sometimes, and I think it's healthy for us to, in those moments, talk to God. He already knows it. He knows we're angry. Now,
right.
I do believe we need to be respectful of God and never forget who He is. And so we can talk to God and say, God, I'm angry right now. Help me in my hurt.
Yes.
Help me in my grieving. Help me in my trial and in my temptation and all that I'm experiencing right now. God, help me in this moment. And I think God shows grace and mercy in those times. Now, I think one of the things that we're guilty of many times is we do feel guilty. We feel bad about having those thoughts and having those basically the trials that we're going through in that moment.
Right.
We feel bad about that. And I don't think we should. Instead, we should look at those as opportunities to mature in our faith. And so when we look back, we say, yes, I was angry with God. I was hurt. And I went through all of these feelings. But look what God did. And so it's an opportunity then to glorify God and to honor Him for what He did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And growing can be uncomfortable.
Yes.
It's never a comfortable process. You're going to go through some growing pains a little bit. But, just the way you said it of, the other side and where God brings you. I often look back and feel so guilty for being so upset in that moment. Knowing God is all-knowing, I am not all-knowing. He is my leader and my master, and I have to trust in Him. And I think in our culture and our society today, it's all about us. Yeah. We're in control. We know everything. And so it's hard for people to do that.
And forgive me, I'm kind of caught off. You're not perfect.
I know.
I think that's what we expect of ourselves.
Yeah.
We expect of ourselves to never go through these struggles. And when we do go through them, we feel like, okay, I'm not as good as other people.
Yeah.
And they're better Christians than I am. They're better human beings. They're maturing more than I am. And in reality, we all struggle with these things.
Yeah.
And God knows it. That's the thing. God knows it.
Yeah.
And so don't try to hide it. Don't try to pretend like you have it together when you don't.
Yeah.
Be honest with God. He knows it. He hears it. And He's going to bless. In my opinion, I think He blesses you when you're just open and honest with Him. Because what you're doing is you're coming to Him with all humility. And you're saying, God, I'm admitting I'm angry right now.
Yeah.
And so, God, help me.
Yeah.
Help me in this moment.
Yeah, that's a good way to good way to do it for sure. So, what can we expect this Sunday?
Well, this week we're following up on our series on generosity.
Okay.
And one of the questions that many people have is, what does the Bible teach us about giving? Now, we've talked about giving out of love and love being something that drives us to generosity. We talked about God blessing us because of being generous. But what does the Bible actually say about God's commands on giving? We're going to talk more about that this Sunday. In the meantime, I also want to remind you that we finished our Bible reading plan through the New Testament. and we're about to start the Old Testament next week.
Okay.
And so one of the things I have asked those who are watching the videos or listening to the podcast daily is to send me a text. Let me know whether you're watching it or listening to it or just reading the text and getting the reference from the post that I'm sending out each day. And so I want to ask you, go ahead and do that. Let me know, because it'll help me know how to move forward and how best to help you. And so text that to 205-541-6404. That's my personal cell number. And that way I will get that from you. I'll know who sent it, and that'll help me know how to pray for you as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. We are looking forward to seeing you this Sunday. Our service times are 8:30 and 10:45, and we can't wait.